Hi, Nate.
Hey, Jess.
How you
It's good
doing?
to be with you. Good, good, good. Excited
Good.
about this.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. Hey, Nate, what have you been doing recently? I heard you've been traveling.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to visit maybe a couple dozen congregations scattered across the U.S. I know you've been out on the East Coast and on the West Coast too,
Yep.
and it's been such a joy to get to know some of these churches more, to hear more of their stories, to understand their passions and some of their concerns, and to see a growing interest in this 2-year initiative that we're doing is Better Together, that we've called the a community of churches.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I know I've really enjoyed connecting with people in their own spaces, in their churches, and in their cities and communities. That's been really special to connect with them that way. So, as you've been talking with folks, what kind of interest are people having in the community of churches?
Yeah, I think it ranges, but I think the primary beauty of these congregations is that each and every church that comes to learn more about this 2-year initiative is so passionate about their local ministry. They care deeply about the people whom they love and whom they serve. They care deeply about their neighborhood. They care deeply about their siblings in Christ that they worship God with on a Sunday morning. And it's a beautiful thing to see that passion. Now, it is unfortunate that for a lot of those folks, they come to these conversations because they're concerned that their mission and their ministry may suffer. And so they come with deep concerns as well. But it's really important, and I found it such a gift to be able to understand and appreciate their passion for ministry in their local space. That said, they're coming with lots of questions. They're coming with questions about the implications of recent decisions by the Christian Reformed Synod. They're coming with questions about what this means for them in their local space. They're coming with questions about their office bearers, their elders, their deacons, their pastors, and they're coming with questions about the space allowed within the Christian Reformed Church going forward, or maybe the lack of space allowed for them in the Christian Reformed Church going forward. And so they're heavy conversations too. But it's been a privilege to be able to see and experience their passion first and foremost.
That's great. Yeah, I've seen the same thing. People are passionate about their local ministry and want to be getting involved in the ministries they've already invested in. They're looking to free up time and mental and spiritual and physical energy to focus on those things. Yeah, I see a real hunger for that too. Nate, what is it about the community of churches that is drawing people to participate? We've been getting some good responses. We're building out some groups already, and it's been very exciting to see it still
Yeah.
continuing. Say a little bit about that. What are people excited about?
Yeah, I think they're excited, or they're encouraged maybe, by a couple of different pieces. One, for many of these churches, they recognize the wear and tear that all of this has placed upon their local leadership. Whether they're pastors or elders or deacons or otherwise, they're coming into this space tired. They're coming into this space with big questions, and they're coming into this space not knowing where to turn.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the joys, or one of the opportunities that we have with the community of churches, is to offer some hope for relief from some of that exhaustion. And that's really the component in which we come alongside pastors to care for them. And it's the soul care opportunities that we can roll out as part of this 2-year initiative. And so there is a sense of exhaustion, and there's a sense of searching and of need to find those spaces where they can come and be away with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited about the opportunity to come alongside these folks who have been working so hard for the mission of God and the kingdom of God in their space, but who are just tired, and they need a little bit of a retreat. They need an opportunity to break away. They need some time to simply come and be with the God who loves them first. And so um, that's kind of a treat to be able to join them in that and to invite them into that space. And I'm hopeful that as people sign up and participate, that they do genuinely find the opportunity to be renewed, to be encouraged, to spend time with Jesus, and then to return to their spaces more rejuvenated and more ready to continue to lead and serve right where God has them. So that's been one really beautiful gift that we can extend as a part of this effort.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm looking forward to that time with folks as well. And I've been hearing the same things. People are really excited about having some of that rest and not just rest alone, but rest in community with support and encouragement.
Mhm.
So, what does some of that rest and care look like? What is the community of churches offering specifically in terms of rest and care for pastors and leaders?
Yeah, so the soul care component or the pastoral care component really looks at three events. There are going to be three key opportunities for pastors or primary leaders from each participant congregation to come away and be with Jesus. The first one, we're excited to roll out this coming February. And I know, uh, Jess, that you've been working on what that all looks like and the different components and the different partners that we'll bring in for that. But it's going to be an opportunity to come away and be with Jesus. And for those of us who live where it might be cold in February, we get to do that in the warmth of Orlando, where we'll be able to enjoy February temps that average right around 75 degrees. And so, if you're someone who's been interested in this, this is a great invite to come and be with Jesus where it's warm, February 10, 11, and 12. And so that's the first piece, a bit of an escape, a bit of a retreat, a time to get oriented toward this whole initiative, but also some time to rest and play. From there, we move into more dedicated spiritual retreat spaces in both the fall of 25 and the fall of 2026, where Cultivate Renewal, one of our key partners who you've been working with extensively already, will lead smaller groups of pastors on retreat where they can really dig into their own soul to understand who they are, how God loves them, and find that rest. The first of these retreats will be, as I said, fall of 2025, and we anticipate inviting folks up to the Abbey of the Genesee up in upstate New York. This is a fantastic retreat center that it was a go-to destination for Henry Nouwen. And so it's an opportunity to come away, be with Jesus, take some rest, and enjoy some stillness and some solitude as a group together. So I think those will be fantastic opportunities for those folks to take deep breaths and be with be with the Lord, listen to the Spirit, and be surrounded by people who love and encourage them along the way.
Yeah, that's so good. I think having that care component as part of the community of churches is so important, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunities that we have to provide that for folks. It's interesting in some of the reading that we've been doing as a team, looking at the vital importance of leaders tending to their own soul care as they lead. Um, right as we think about all of so many churches are moving into seasons of discernment, and it's a time of wondering, it's a time of waiting, and not just Advent here, but a time of waiting to see what the Lord is up to and how we can join God in the good work that He's doing in our communities. And right, that kind of work of listening and discerning, and then the change and the transformation that comes when we join him in that work, when it requires a pivot or a shift or an adjustment in our communities to join him in that work. That happens best when we as leaders are also attending to our own care needs, when we come rested in the spirit, attuned to his voice in our lives. And it helps our community time of discernment to be really productive and help us in faithfully following the way that the Lord is leading. Yeah, about the retreat in February, I'm really, first of all, of course, looking forward to the warm weather, and that's gonna be a nice break, but can I tell you, the warmth of just some good community and being together in, some of the really dark months, we're heading up on winter solstice, and man, is it getting dark around here. I'm really looking forward to that time together. There's a kind of, warmth and brightness that happens when we spend time. I think it's gonna be relaxing. I think it's gonna be informative. I'm excited about the partners that we're, working with it for that retreat. Some really excellent work coming out of the Colossian Forum that's tailored just to the churches participating in the community of churches, along with working with Cultivate Renewal and our friends there. So I think it's gonna be a really wonderful time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an opportunity for congregations to care for their leaders well. Unfortunately, many church pastors are not always best at caring for themselves. And so this is an opportunity for uh, the local elder, local deacon, the council to come alongside their pastor who has been likely at the tip of the spear in all of these
Mhm.
difficult conversations, denominationally and otherwise, to provide them space to rest and play and come back to them more rejuvenated and more ready to continue to lead and serve in their space. So we're really hopeful that that can be a productive piece for them.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that too. In fact, another reason why I think this is gonna be a really neat gathering for the churches participating, for the leaders participating in the community of churches is, so we're kicking off our cohorts in January, and we'll have, you and I are gonna meet with everybody virtually and, connect everyone in their groups. Really looking forward to that time. Um, but then February is going to be when everybody gets to meet in person, and these cohorts kind of get to build that relationship, that strong foundation for these really unique relationships that are going to continue for the next couple of years. So I'm also looking forward to that. And I don't know, do you think we need some icebreaker games or something? Have you think of that?
I think inevitably we'll have some fun along the way.
Of course,
We're
yes,
going to make sure that this is an enjoyable place
for
and
sure,
time
for
for
sure.
everyone.
Yeah.
So
No, I think it's gonna be great. Um, so when I think too about the February retreat and some of the things that we're looking at there, working with Colossian Forum, we're actually working with them on the Wayfinder curriculum that they have, which is all about helping churches navigate challenging conversations, disagreements over things that are important that we feel strongly about, and doing it in a way that bears the fruit of the Spirit, and in so doing actually builds up the unity of that community. So I think it's going to be really good material, not just timely for the season that we're in as churches, but also for the time that we're in, the culture that we're in at large. There's so much reinforcement of decisions to divide and to disagree harshly, and to draw deep lines in the sand that separate. And this is really seeking to address that and look at a different way. And that work that's going to start in February is going to continue for the next year. And I'm also really looking forward to that for churches. It's this long, slow, deep work of thinking through carefully, thoughtfully, faithfully what it looks like to be in community, navigating challenges and even conflict in a way that glorifies the Lord and draws us closer to Jesus.
yeah. Yeah, I think there's such a beauty in the way in which the Colossian Forum will help congregations lean ever closer to each other, right? Really live into a practice and a posture of reconciliation, um, and bring about a more Christ-like way to dealing with these hard conversations that we're all inevitably in,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's issues around sexuality or whether it's politics, whether it's interpersonal conflict, whether it's challenges at the local level that we never anticipated having. I've joked with others that the scriptures tell us that wherever two or three are gathered, there is, Christ is there. the reality is that wherever two or three are gathered because of our broken world, conflict is there too. And so we can do a better job at living as Christ-like followers in the midst of these realities.
Yeah.
I think it's also, and so there's obviously a spiritual dynamic here. There's an organizational dynamic here, um, but curiously, there's also a stewardship dynamic here.
Mhm.
As we've been talking with the Colossian Forum, they have research partners who have analyzed the cost of conflict within local congregations, and I was blown away by the average loss of effectiveness by a local congregation due to conflict. It numbers somewhere in the realm of $130,000 of lost opportunity each and every year. Whoa. I mean, talk about the need for better stewardship.
Mhm.
And of course, these lost costs can be anything from that council meeting that went an extra hour or two and burned so many people hours, or the interpersonal conflicts that happen within a staff, or the conflicts between volunteers, the ways in which we avoid each other when we simply don't want to address the elephant in the room. These are lost opportunity costs. And so there's obviously a spiritual dynamic where we want to be more Christ-like, and there's organizational dynamics where we want to be more effective, but there's also a real financial component here where people are losing out on opportunities to share the gospel, to love your neighbors, and it costs real dollars for real folks. And I think that's such a lost reality sometimes in our conflict, and yet we hope that even participating in the Colossian Forum material in their Wayfinder program, as people, rather than become contentious, they get curious in the face of conflict. Rather than finding distance, they actually lean in and get close. There's going to be opportunity to see deep spiritual transformation, and also opportunity to impact your bottom line as a congregation and as an organization. And so we're hopeful on a whole bunch of fronts when it comes to this conflict work.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Yeah, in Colossian form, right? They've been doing this work in a focused, deliberate, well-researched way. They bring experience and expertise to the work that they're doing. They're really definitely a trusted resource that we're able to share with the community of churches. Um, right? Because we can want things to be different, and we can want to navigate conflict in ways that point people to Jesus, and that demonstrate the fruit of the Holy Spirit in our lives. It's one thing to want it, but I don't know about you, but I need tools. I need suggestions. I need people to help me see what's in my blind spots. And I think that's a lot of the work that they do. Very practical tools to help us attain and get after the things that we care about and that we know are part of a faithful walk of following Jesus, but are just plain hard.
Yeah.
In talking about Colossian Forum, Nate, I have heard people say though that the Colossian Forum is progressive, liberal, and maybe sometimes there's some concern about participating in the community of churches because of our close connection with the Colossian Forum. Um, I think that people make that connection for a variety of reasons, but can you help us maybe clear up a little bit how we should how we can view the Colossian Forum? Are they advocating for particular positions that have been recently contentious? Help us
Yeah.
think that through.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I mean, so often in our world today, right? We're caught in this: are you on my side or are you on the other side? Right? We get into this really binary understanding of you're in, you're out, you're right, you're wrong, you're left, you're right, you're conservative, you're progressive, whatever it may be, um, and and we lose sight of the process by which we are encouraged to engage.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the Colossian Forum does an awfully good job at helping people do process well.
Yeah.
Um, the Colossian Forum it doesn't position itself as a prescriptive organization. They're not trying to tell you what to do. They're trying to help you think about how you do what you feel God is calling you to do. And so it's much more about the how and the process and the posture and embodying the fruit of the Spirit along the way, rather than dictating to you that you must end at point A or end at point B. Um, I think they give illustration of this largely in their recent documentary that they were featured in, entitled "The Leap of Faith," and you can Google that and find links to it. And I think there are ways to watch that on streaming services now. But it demonstrates their desire, their passion, and their wrestle with trying to really hold these tensions rather than simply direct people to particular outcomes. And similarly, our work with the community of churches is an effort to help churches work through conflict well rather than prescribe a particular outcome. We view ourselves as this Better Together initiative as an opportunity to come alongside congregations, regardless of where they find themselves, and really simply ensure that their pastors are cared for, that they navigate conflict well, and that they're equipped to make the necessary adaptive changes that are required for their own thriving as they walk forward into the future. And so we're not trying to be prescriptive. We're not trying to lead an exodus out of the Christian Reformed Church. And we're not particularly trying to keep churches in the CRC either. Rather, we're coming alongside congregations as they journey in accordance with where they feel God has called them. And we're trying to make sure that that journey is one that is strong and well equipped and able to allow them and their ministry and their missions to thrive on the other side. And so this 2-year initiative is really focused on building that unity across these differences for the sake of those local missions. And I think that so often this can be misunderstood, misconstrued, mislabeled in ways that really miss the point. Because the point is helping each and every congregation thrive in their local mission and their local ministry. And we recognize that these are difficult times. Pastors are tired. Churches are in conflict. Change is inevitable, whether a church stays with the Christian Reformed Church or the denomination to which they belong or moves beyond that. And so we're really looking more to come alongside and be equippers and be encouragers as these congregations engage the conflict and the change that's already present.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nate. That's really good. Very helpful framework to think about these things and to think about the Colossian Forum and the work that we're doing at Better Together. That's really great.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I think about our work too, I personally, it feels like a deep work of trusting in the Holy Spirit, trusting in God, that He loves His church even more than we do, and that He has really good things prepared for His church.
Yeah.
And in that we don't necessarily know exactly what that is. And I think that the best way I see us serving the churches, the best way that we can serve churches is to give them the space and the support to be attending well to what the Holy Spirit is doing, to seeing where God is at work and exploring ways to share the good news of Jesus with the people in their communities. And that's what we're about. That's what I get excited about. And I feel so sure that that's good work to be about. I feel less sure if I were to be in charge of trying to tell people what to do or what exactly their ministry should look like. It's actually a deep comfort to me to
Yeah.
know that God knows churches and their personalities, their gifts and their passions and their communities, and that He's got good work for them to do and is eager to make that known and help
Yeah.
them in that. So yeah, that's what I get excited about and feel really confident about the the space that we're trying to make for churches.
Yeah. And that's not to say, right, that that space is easy space.
No.
That's hard work, right? You mentioned it's deep work. It's finding that space to be vulnerable. And in a context in which we find ourselves today, that vulnerability can be really scary.
Yep.
And where can I be safe to be vulnerable? And where can I be safe to actually listen to the leading of the Spirit rather than react to the immediacy of the moment or the urgency of this, that, or the other pressure? And so we're quite hopeful that this community will provide opportunity to do that deep work. We recognize that it's it's heart work, and so it's vulnerable work. And our role as Better Together, as those who invite churches into this space, is simply to work really hard to steward that space well, so that those churches and those leaders can experience the transformative work of the Spirit, so that they can emerge healthier and more on mission in their own local spaces than they would otherwise. And so we want to take real seriously that need to steward and care and ensure that that space is honored and protected. Outside of any kind of prescription or dictation as to direction or outcome. And so, if there are churches out there, maybe if you're watching and you say, you know what, I hunger or I thirst for that kind of space, we hope that you'd consider participating with us in this Community of Churches initiative.
Yeah. Thanks, Nate. So if churches are thinking, wow, this sounds maybe like it would be helpful, something I want to at
Yeah.
least find out more about, what can churches do? What can leaders do? Um, who's supposed to take the lead on this? How can
Yeah.
folks learn more?
We've seen a couple of different approaches as far as who takes the lead. Sometimes we're contacted by pastors, other times we're contacted by elders or deacons or other ministry leaders in the congregation. But the first and most important step is simply to reach out. We've done a lot of connecting with congregations and with ministry leaders, and hopefully we've connected with anyone who's joining us for this moment. But if we've missed you, we're sorry, and we would love to reach out and connect with you. And so we invite anyone and everyone to reach out to us simply at info, at bettertogether.church. And if you email us there, we'll be sure to respond quickly, and we'll get connected, and we'll be able to show and demonstrate ways in which you can get involved in this community of churches as well. You're also welcome, of course, to visit us on our website, bettertogether.church, where there's more material and more information, and also a way to connect with us there. And so we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to be able to support your congregation as you navigate these next couple of years, as you recognize the exhaustion that maybe your ministry leader or your pastor is experiencing. And as you recognize the conflict and the change that really are relatively constant, at least in this cultural moment that we find ourselves in today.
Yeah, that's good. I know I am always thrilled when someone says, "Hey, can we maybe connect over a Zoom call or have a phone conversation, or can we grab coffee?" I love that. That is such good work. And while certainly we are eager to have people participate in the community of churches, because there's so much good opportunity, good resources for churches that we're really excited to share and eager for folks to benefit from and be encouraged by. Regardless of that, I know, Nate, you and I both just really appreciate and value the time spent with people. And frankly, it's those conversations too that helps us have a really good sense, growing, increasingly better sense of what folks are thinking about, what they care about, what they're concerned about, and all of that listening, which has been a privilege. All of that listening has helped us in putting together and formatting the community of churches, the activities, the partnerships, the focus. And we have made some adjustments precisely because we hear overwhelmingly about certain concerns or needs or hopes that churches have, and we're so eager to support and address that in specific ways and use our resources in that way.
Yeah, I think it has been our effort to be as responsive to the needs and concerns of churches as possible. I think back to this past August where we did a convening of concerned congregations. It was right after Synod 2024 where we recognized that there were a whole variety of conversations that were ongoing with different groups and different individuals. And there were deep concerns emerging out of the decisions of Synod 2024 in the Christian Reformed Church. And so we offered the opportunity to host a gathering. We called it that convening of concerned churches. And initially, we were quite uncertain as to the number of churches that would show up. We thought maybe it would be 20, maybe it would be 40. And we were blown away when 116 of these congregations registered for this event. Those 116 churches, too, came from a wide geography. They're not just all in the Midwest or West Michigan by any means. In fact, those 116 churches are found are located in 35 of the 49 classes in the Christian Reformed Church. These are geographical regions scattered across the United States and Canada. And so there's wide concern. And those 116 churches represented more than 32,000 members of the Christian Reformed Church. That's approximately 17% of the denomination. And all of these churches and all of these leaders came to this convening with simply 8 weeks' notice. And so the concern is real. The unknown is scary, and there's a desire for community and connection in the midst of all of this. And so our hearts are to listen, to be responsive to the needs and concerns of these churches. And that's really what has emerged out of and into now this community of churches initiative. And we're so hopeful for the ways in which we can come alongside these congregations, not in a predictive or a instructive way, but in a way that serves and cares for and helps walk alongside these churches as they navigate caring for their pastor, the realities of conflict, and the necessity for change, regardless of what their future holds. And so we're really hopeful that our listening has been done well. We recognize that our listening is not concluded. We continue to hear from and sit with and listen to so many different congregations across the nation, across the denomination, and more. And we're really together seeking the leading of the Spirit, the encouragement of Christ, the will of the Father, and we hope that together we can live forward in a way that enhances local missions of all of these congregations.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks, Nate. Um, so who are the churches? What kind of churches are getting involved in the community of churches? We've got some folks signing up, and that's been very exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of churches and maybe where they are? Is it all in one spot? Are they scattered? Tell us.
Yeah, we're really glad to see kind of a wide geography of churches starting to engage. Um, I think that in large part there tend to be two primary expressions. One, uh, in one regard, we're seeing keen interest from churches that find themselves in urban settings. These are churches that rub shoulders with a diversity of people due to their own local geography. They're being in cities, they rub shoulders with all types of people all the time, and they recognize the value of some diversity in their leadership. They recognize the value of some diversity in their membership, and they look at the decisions of Synod 2024 that have moved towards a much more strict confessionalism that limits the potential diversity of their leadership as a really difficult hurdle. And so I think we're seeing keen interest in some urban congregations. On the same front, though, we're also seeing keen interest in congregations, churches, missional communities that tend to be on the more edge of mission. Maybe they tend to be more on the fringe. These can be your church plant, your small rural congregation. These can be churches that are in kind of more of those outpost regions within the Christian Reformed Church and otherwise. And these churches, whether it's due to size or the type of people that they serve or their missional hearts, they tend to attract and include members who, again, are more diverse than your maybe more Midwest Christian Reformed church that lives in suburbia or lives in a more established rural space. And so these congregations tend to be on the edge of mission. They've been engrafting people who come from a wide range of backgrounds, both Christian and non. And these are folks who are living out their missional call in really dynamic ways. And they too look at the recent decisions of Synod that call for a stricter confessionalism as a real limiting factor to how they believe God has called them to live in their space and in their on their mission. And so I think we're seeing both the more urban kind of congregations because of the diversity there, but also the more missional congregations, those on the edge of mission, those out on the frontier, who are seeing real important engagement. Um, and they're looking for a safe place to be able to find rest, to be equipped and encouraged with constructive and Christ-like ways to engage conflict, and they're wondering about the adaptive changes necessary that they will face. And so, I think those kind of two descriptors of involvement, at least those are the conversations that I've been a part of, and I know you have too, Jess.
Yep. Yep. No, that's exactly right. Definitely a real sense of churches who have a heart for outreach and in their mission. Absolutely, especially focused on their local communities, but also, with more widely with missionaries across the globe.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about mission here, and we've talked about the community of churches that is in focusing on care and navigating conflict and change. There's also this mission piece, and again, this is exciting to me. It makes me hopeful. I'm glad that churches participating in the community of churches are going to have a chance to be supported and encouraged and um, uh, resourced as they seek to deepen their local ministries and their mission in their local context.
Mhm.
I, my observation is that a lot of times when we're going through challenging times, and there's a whole variety of reasons why many churches that we're talking to are going through challenging times. Some of it is because of changes in the denomination, but also there's local challenges, there's congregational challenges, there's just so many reasons why congregations are facing challenge. Um, and my observation is that there's a tendency that we could want to kind of circle our wagons and just focus inward and lose a little of that vision and passion for outreach and mission. It's understandable, right?
Yeah.
People are exhausted and weary, and it takes a kind of creative energy to do that work, a kind of a thick skin, a real patience to do that kind of long, deep work of engaging the community and walking alongside folks and,
Yeah.
um, that relational ministry. So I get why it's sometimes that can fall off the edge of things a little bit. But couple things. One, I'm recognizing, as you say, Nate, there are the churches that we're connecting with. They're retaining that passion for mission and outreach, and in even if there's churches thinking about this and thinking, I kind of feel like maybe that descriptor of things falling off a little bit, our mission focus falling off a little bit in the midst of all this turmoil. If that resonates with any of you, again, the community of churches could be a wonderful opportunity to get that care and support and the resourcing that we've been talking about, but also to be encouraged and well resourced in thinking about your own local mission. Um, we had when we thought about the Better Together project when we were first rolling it out before Synod 2024, we had planned to have these cohorts
Mhm.
that were going to be necessarily regional cohorts because the idea was that these groups of peers that would be meeting together would be talking through some, learning some of these good skills about navigating conflict. But then that together, this local group of pastors and leaders would work together on a shared and common ministry or mission to demonstrate their unity to a watching community.
Yeah.
And I still think that's a really exciting mission. But as part of this listening that we've been doing and in hearing so many churches talk about their passion for their local ministry in their local context, we
Mhm.
recognize that churches and pastors are just looking for support to
Yeah.
continue to do the work that they're already doing or that they long to do in their local community. And so we still have a cohort component of the community of churches. There's so much good that happens when we meet together and deepen and strengthen relationships over shared stories and shared experiences. So I think that model is still a really healthy one for what we're seeking to do with the community of churches, but the
Mhm.
focus is different, right? And I want to share this because I think sometimes we are maybe have heard about the project from before and assume that this has to be a regional, a local cohort that's working together on a new project. That really isn't the focus anymore. Um, I it looks like some regional cohorts are shaping up, but there's also going to be cohorts that are put together where you're going to be building relationship with people in a completely different context. And if anything, I think that can be a really exciting opportunity as pastors and leaders build these connections, build these relationships, and work and think toward the mission that God is calling them to in their context. Because instead of working together on one goal, it's going to be
Mhm.
hearing the stories and the wisdom from your peers,
Mhm.
and uh, having people kind of a sounding board of understanding and supportive folks who can hear your stories about the work that you're doing in your local context and can pray for you and support you, brainstorm with you, help you troubleshoot things. I think that the peer component, the cohort component, is going to be really a rich experience of the community of churches. And while it's certainly a place to process all these other pieces of training with the Colossian Forum and going on retreats, the big aim of all of it is having a community of
Mhm.
peers in which you can share the joys and the burdens and the hopes and
Yeah.
the prayers of your local mission and ministry. So I'm excited about what that's going to mean.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the common hurdles that people express to joining is a concern around bandwidth for local pastors and local ministries, and recognizing that yes, many of the churches and the pastors that we're talking with are very um, their calendars are full. Their plates are overflowing. They have so much to do, and what seems like so little time.
Yeah.
And yet, one of the offerings of participating in this community of churches, this 2 year initiative, is an opportunity to do this not alone, but to do this together,
Mhm.
to be surrounded by peers who will encourage you, who will come alongside you and support you, to bring resources for training so that you become more effective. And so we really do believe that participating in this 2 year initiative will actually add bandwidth for the local pastor and the local ministry, the local congregation, because they can do this not on their own. I've heard so many elders, deacons, pastors express that reality that they feel that they sit in a council room and they don't know what to do and they don't know who to talk to and they don't have any kind of community surrounding them. And they spend hours circling and circling and circling. And what the Community of Churches initiative allows for is it allows for intentional peer to peer relationships where questions can be asked and the wisdom of the group, the wisdom of the room can be gleaned that will help local churches be more efficient. Local ministers feel better equipped and supported to walk the journey forward. And so while we recognize that, yes, this might add some time onto the calendars of pastors and congregations, we really do believe that this added time will be more productive, that those peer relationships will be productive, that the reality is that conflict and change for each and every church and each and every pastor is likely a given, and doing and being equipped to handle that conflict and change in more healthy ways, in more Christ like ways, in ways that are surrounded by community and not by isolation, will help congregations move through these conflicts and move through these changes in a way that reduces time, energy, and effort. And may just lead to more joy as they do this together, following the Spirit. And so we're hopeful on that bandwidth question. And we trust that when we do this together, we'll do it better. It's kind of in the name itself.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good, Nate. Thank you. We are better together, aren't we?
I think so. I think
Mhm,
so.
mhm.
Um, you know, the other challenge, right, that of course we're experiencing, or that congregations are raising, is that while we're the beneficiaries of a fantastic grant by way of the Lilly Endowment in partnership uh, with Calvin Christian Reformed Church, the reality is that some of this cost of participating does come to the local body too. And for some churches, we're at the end of this fiscal year in 2024 as we turn into the new year. For some churches, they're feeling the pinch of those budgetary realities. Um, and so while we recognize that and we're very thankful for the grant dollars that function as seed funds for all of this effort. We do ask that congregations participate in that financial responsibility too. And so we have a sticker price of $5,000 per participating church. Now, to be clear, that $5,000 is scattered over 2 years or 25 months. And so it breaks down to $207.50 a month. I think many of us watching this may be paying more in cable bills or streaming services on a monthly basis than that $207. Maybe our local church pays more for that in internet speed. The reality is that together we need to partner in this and we need to have a little skin in the game. Now, we also recognize that for some congregations, $5,000 over the course of 2 years is simply too much. And for that, we don't want to turn a blind eye or a deaf ear, but instead we have launched into a fundraising campaign to try and raise dollars so that congregations can still participate. And so, if your congregation or you're a church plant or you're a missional community and you say, oh, we would so love the opportunity, please don't let dollars keep you away. We want to work with you. We want to invite you. We want to include you. And so reach out to us at info@bettertogether.church, info@bettertogether.church. We'd love to come alongside you. We'd love to see ways in which we can think creatively about how you can participate in this 2 year initiative too. Um,
No, that's so good because I would just hate, right, for a church to really want to participate in the community of churches and be limited by finances. If that's the only thing keeping a church from getting involved, I would say, well, we can sort through that 100%.
Absolutely.
I would say come and be a part of it, and yeah, the financial piece. right, it's always awkward to talk about and, can make people feel uncomfortable, and I totally get it. And people have questions too, right? As you said, we have a grant, and why would we raise this money? I think it's important to know that we as a team obviously don't. Uh, we're not personally benefiting from any of this raised money. Every penny of it would go toward supporting churches who are finding it difficult to participate because of the financial piece of things. And I just encourage folks to think of it as an investment. You mentioned, Nate, that we have lots of bills personally and as churches that that go toward things that matter, that we care about, that are vital to the work that we do, vital to our lives, and also vital. I mean, you mentioned streaming services, vital to some of our rest and relaxation. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's okay to put money toward those things, and again, some churches are 100% strapped and really don't have that wiggle room. Um, but if you're thinking about it and considering this, think of the financial piece as an investment in your leadership, in your congregation, in um, providing your congregation with a space to imagine and dream and discern what the Lord is up to, and giving yourself some encouragement and support along the way.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I think one of the realities too that we can be so grateful for
Mhm.
is that due to the grant that we've received, we're able to offer all of this training and equipping and this coming alongside at such a reduced rate. If we look at the market value of what is being offered in these participating churches or for these participating churches, we're well in the neighborhood of 20, 25, even $30,000 worth of value offered. Uh, we recognize that there is a financial ask for participation, and yet we want to make sure that congregations understand, strictly from a financial perspective, they're getting quite a return on investment. And we trust that that will be seen not just in the couple of years the initiative runs itself, but in the years that come down the line. And so we hope that you'll consider participating, even in light of that financial ask. I think the reality to that congregations can sometimes come up against is the fear component
Mm,
of engaging. Um, I was recently out west, and there was a question about whether or not participation in the community of churches or connections to Better Together could result in negative repercussions. We'll call it that, negative repercussions. They had other words within the current Christian Reformed Church denominational circles, and um, and I struggled to know how to answer that question.
mm,
Um, uh, I think oftentimes, and we've talked about this before, Jess, right? That the Better Together has been misunderstood. The Better Together has been maligned. That our efforts are not to be prescriptive or directive, but our efforts are to come alongside and to provide space. Um, and and so there is a reality for some congregations that they fear participating,
yeah,
um, and they live in this fear. And while I don't have a solution for them in those conversations, I lament alongside them that their existence is one in which they don't feel free to engage in resources and equipping in ways that can be really beneficial for them as a local body. And instead, they live in fear that they might be found out, that they might be discovered, that they might end up on someone's list and thereby be targeted or persecuted because of their desire to seek the thriving of the mission to which God has called them. Um, and I think that that is such a sad fear. And yet it's real. It's real. Um, and I struggle to know how to respond to that other than asking the question, um, why they feel that fear, and if they feel that living under such a threat is um, going to allow them to follow the call that God has placed upon them and their mission and their ministry.
Yeah, that's a really good question, I think, to bring to that conversation. Yeah, that is a heartbreaking situation. I've heard the same concerns in some conversations that I've had with folks. I think there's such a break in trust. It's so difficult to know how to address that, how to repair that, and sometimes when I have questions like that, you know, how do we repair trust in a context that feels overwhelming, you know, between churches or between colleagues or yeah, I think about I try to bring the scale down really small, and I think about
Mhm.
how we build trust in relationships with people
Mhm.
that we care about and that God has put into our lives. Um, right trust is really the only good way to move forward in relationship, to keep a relationship going. So I think the first of all, the decision to say, I want to be in community, be in relationship, it requires some level of trust as a foundation to any kind of healthy relationship. Otherwise, we're just playing roles, and that doesn't seem like a really sustainable way to do ministry, have partnerships. So trust is bedrock to all of this. And I don't know about you, Nate, but I find in my own relationships where there's been some trust damage, um, it feels a little scary to step out into. It takes courage to trust when you don't have a long history, when you feel unsure that it's going to hold the weight of the relationship. But I do think it's worth it, and I think it's an act of a unique act of faithfulness for us to step out and trust one another. And I honestly don't know how else that we can do it except by just starting.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my hope is that I know I am deeply sympathize with churches who are feeling anxious about wanting to be associated with Better Together. Um, I mean, you and I have both noticed it even in interpersonal relationships. Sometimes there's a kind of a distancing that happens, and we grieve that, of course. Um, and yet, I know for this is true for me. I know it's true for you too, Nate. Our posture is one of wanting to stay connected, wanting to engage, wanting to build trusting relationships, and certainly doing our best to try to do that as well as we can
Yeah.
in the context of our work in ministries. And we want to support churches in doing that too. But yeah, we certainly do understand that it's a little scary. It's a scary time for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, it can feel intimidating to leave what feels like a safety net and step into something unknown. I,
Mhm.
and one of the beautiful things about the community churches, it certainly is stepping into something a little unknown, and we're trying to embrace that a little bit to recognize that the Spirit's going to work in that space.
Mhm.
Um, but but you won't be doing it alone. And I think that piece, the community of churches, is
Mhm.
for me what's so compelling about this is um, right? Intentional community. It's not just a collection of churches. There's lots of ways in which churches collect themselves into different groups. This is a real sense of we're trying to build a real sense of community, and we're it's neat to see the eagerness that other the churches that are signing on to participate to see that that's their hope and eagerness also.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that there will be such a shared communal vision
Mhm.
for that as we gather with these congregations already in February, um, with a desire to support, encourage, come alongside each other
Mhm.
through the hardships and the struggles. And I know that a number of people left that original convening of concerned churches back in August with such a sense of support and
Mhm.
and hope. Um, and that's not to say that that space wasn't filled with lament and sadness too. Um, but it was good to gather as brothers and sisters and siblings in Christ together to worship and to give praise, to learn and to explore, to wonder and to hope.
Mm.
And I know for many that was a really healing and a really hopeful time together. And I'm excited about how these cohorts and this larger community of churches effort, this initiative, will be able to continue that kind of hope-filled, supportive community going forward.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a real gift that we simply get to enjoy together.
yeah.
Um, you know,
No, that's so true. I do think that that meeting, is right, and it was surrounded by so much difficulty, that
Mhm.
meeting in August, but there was truly a real sense of joy and a real, sense of the Spirit being present and at work, and I'm so grateful for
Yeah,
that, and I do think it's help us all, right, have kind of a hope and a vision for what that could be moving forward,
yeah,
certainly. So, Nate, there are churches uh who have been looking into the community of churches, and as they do that and looking at their own context and really what is it, what they need in this moment, um, they're they're wanting to maybe participate in some things but not other things. Can you say just a little bit about the idea of kind of an a la carte
mhm,
um, community of churches? Is that a possibility for
yeah,
churches, or do they need to kind of sign on for the whole 2 years?
yeah. That's a question we've gotten from a number of different congregations, and while we recognize and we do believe that there's great value in participating in the whole. Um, right, this is going to be a well designed experience with a bit of a curricular arc that'll provide a much more holistic engagement where we can provide opportunities for care and that conflict training and that equipping around change, and also bring in additional coaching and support for participant churches. We know that for some congregations, they say, you know what, we really like this, but we're not so sure about that. Can we engage in a more, as you mentioned, a la carte way? And we do anticipate being able to offer that for those congregations. So there'll be opportunities to participate along the way rather than enjoy the whole. Um, but again, if you're a congregation who's considering this, we do invite you to look at the wider opportunity that lays before you. We think that this provides a healthier, more continuous mode of being together, of being the church as one, as a group of congregations that can support and encourage each other. But if you're not in that space, and we recognize that some congregations aren't, we do invite you to continue to follow along with us. We'll be providing opportunities for short drop-ins, for maybe specific trainings along the way. Those will come at some cost because those will be largely outside of the grant dollars. But we do want to make sure that we're able to provide little tastes along the way for those congregations who might say we can't sign up for the whole at the moment. So we invite you to follow along with us. You can do that by way of following us online, by way of our website, bettertogether.church, by way of our Facebook feed or that sort of thing, where you can find us on social media and the like, or you can always sign up too for our newsletter, for our email list. And you can do that by way of that website, bettertogether.church. And so we hope to be able to invite you to come along with us, to journey alongside us. And so we're really glad that you're able to join us for something like this. We're hopeful for the ways in which God is calling us forward. And, and we do pray that your mission and your ministry would be strengthened and furthered, and that together we would be able to step forward into the future that God has already designed for us. Um, so we look forward to that, and we look forward to doing it with you.
Nice, that's so good.
The vision for these churches that participate, for your church that might participate, is that at the end of the 2 year initiative, you'll emerge with pastoral leadership that's healthier. You'll emerge with a congregation and key leaders within that congregation who are better equipped to handle conflict. You'll emerge with a congregation that has journeyed its way through adaptive change, whether that means staying with the Christian Reformed Church or whether that means moving beyond its borders. And The beauty, of course, in all of this is that you'll have emerged in all of these ways, not alone, but together with stronger relationships, with peers and other congregations that you can call, that you can rely on, that you can continue to build trust and engagement with. And so, throughout all of this, we want to recognize that there are some real nuts and bolts skills that will be developed and experiences that will be had. There'll be opportunities to come away and be with Jesus, and we do this not alone, but we do this as the greater body. We do this as a community of churches. We do this because we're better together. And
Mhm.
that's really our hope.